Trey Hendrickson?
Yeah, last offseason he asked for a trade. They said no.
Right.
And this offseason he asked for a trade. They said okay. Listen, the Bengals defense was bad. Okay, can we just start with that?
Yeah, but he's a 2-time Pro Bowler who led the league in sacks.
All Pro. Listen, first team All Pro.
All Pro.
You don't have to tell me. I understand. Remember, I used to go watch the games to support my friend, Bengals Doug. Remember we talked about this?
Yes, we know Bengals Doug.
Like, he'd make a play, and it didn't matter because then they'd give up a 40-yard touchdown, So can Trey Hendrickson help the Chicago Bears? Trey Hendrickson can help any team he's on. Do you want to give up what it takes to get a guy that's, due $15.8 million in salary, a cap hit currently of $18.7 million? Now you can work out an extension and get something done, and maybe it makes sense, but that man gets sacks. Nobody's had more sacks over the last 2 seasons.
I just want to know what that price is. I don't know. Once you say, yeah, you can go seek a trade, see what you can get, it's only a 1-year deal. Not all the teams where he's going to want to go are going to be able to put together a deal for him. And the Bears have to be very, very careful now as their roster is getting older faster with these trades. And what is short-term? What is long-term? How hard are they going for it right now? And how long a deal would you offer Hendrickson? He's 30, right? What's he going to be when the season starts?
I guess he would be 31. I mean, let me look at his birthday. But here's what I'll caution you. They're a natural fit. He's 30 now. He'll be 31. He'll turn 31 at the end of next season. His birthday is December 5th.
Okay. So he's probably got 3
3-year extension sounds good. You just saw what Max Crosby got, right?
Yeah, how old's he?
Younger. Max Crosby, he's 27. Yeah. He'll be 30 for next season. He's 28 next season. He's 3 years younger. So, no, I understand your concern. That 30 plays real hard, doesn't it? When your number starts with a 3, the way you get looked at in the NFL is so different.
It should.
There's guys who have been productive though into their 30s, not mid 30s or late 30s, unless you're a quarterback or whatever. But there are guys who have been able to get it done. I mean, weren't you the one talking about Khalil Mack might make sense?
Yeah, but on a 1 year, maybe a 2 year.
I'm about to say it'll probably be a 2 year. I think Khalil Mack can get a 2 year deal.
I mean, that's also somebody who's already established as freakish and one of the greatest at his job.
34 years old though.
Ever, yeah.
34 is a lot different than 30.
I remember the Richard Dent re-signing.
You can't let that. Things were different. What year was that? Things were different back then. How athletes took care of their bodies, as everything else.
No doubt. That was 95.
So I would like to think a lot of things have changed in 30 years in the NFL. In fact, I know a lot of things have changed in 30 years in the NFL.
It's still the NFL. It's still unpredictable collisions and people smashing into each other and destroying each other at greater and greater speeds.
I'm not arguing that at all. So Trey Hendrickson is on your wish list if the price is right.
Yeah.
In terms of draft compensation and how many years.
Well, sure. I want to get a better idea of what the deal actually is. But the idea of Trey Hendrickson on next year's Bears, just independent, independent of everything,
Sign you up.
Sounds pretty awesome to me.
What about Trey Hendrickson and Khalil Mack?
Sure. At the expense of what?
I don't know.
And how? And at what point do you just want to say, look, we're going to need some draft picks?
Well, you know what? You know why you need some draft picks? Because eventually, while you're in stopgap mode with some of these positions that we're talking about, it'd be nice to see the Bears draft an edge rusher who can get things done.
Unless Dennis Allen thinks that Austin Booker or Dominique Robinson can be salvaged as a prospect. And I don't know if Dennis Allen thinks that. Maybe they got to get to training camp and get a look at some of these guys first, because it's time to look at these resources and look at everything with fresh sets of eyes. But the reason I get concerned about having picks is the bottom third of the roster matters. And ask the Lions about it. Ask if Ben Johnson, more than anybody, with all the injuries they had last year and how difficult it was for them to keep going until that thing finally just collapsed, he knows the bottom third of the roster matters. You can top load this all you want.
Not only
but a number of these players are not going to be viable in December.
Not only did Ben Johnson live it, he just lived it. It is fresh in his memory.
Yes. They were almost out of guys.
No, I would argue they were out of guys, and that's why they lost to Washington. That was part of the reason why they lost to Washington, is they were out of guys.
But they were almost literally, like, they were street free agents. They were having to fill out their roster with extra dudes.
Got to do what you got to do. But we're trying to get the Bears to be on that level where we're talking about them as contenders. And right now, they're not contenders. We started this offseason talk, basically, Dan, talking about how guys want to go to contenders, and like, well, we can't call the Bears contenders. Now they've made some acquisitions.
They're trying to make it look like they think they are.
That like they're ready to contend.
Yes, they're trying to at least send the message that they think they are. So let's hear what Mina Kimes of ESPN had to say when she was speculating that the Bears may actually be interested in Trey Hendrickson.
Yeah, I mean, the contract's going to be enormous. Max Crosby just lifted that gap on edge rushers. Maybe that factored into the Bengals thinking, not wanting to give him the type of contract that Adam correctly says is coming his way. Love that you drew the DK Metcalf comparison, because with both of those players only having a year left, that does depress their trade value a bit. So, you know, even though Trey Hendrickson as a player is arguably one of the best at his position in the NFL, might not be the sort of mega package I think we associate with players like that. That said, there's a number of teams, Bill alluded to this, who I suspect will be on the phone. Just to name a few, the Chicago Bears have a need at edge, and now a defensive coordinator in Dennis Allen, who you talked about him with the Saints, has history with Trey Hendrickson.
Yeah.
Point blank. First team out of her mouth. The only team specifically mentioned, Chicago Bears. And the history matters. And I want to go back to what I said yesterday about the trades that have been made clearly have Ben Johnson's fingerprints all over them. And what did I tell you about what they need to do on the defensive side of the ball? Same concept, but with another former head coach, stalwart defensive coordinator, and Dennis Allen. You have to let him tell you what he needs, and when things become available, hey, if we can make this work, I need you to go get that guy right there.
Cohabitation reports.
That's high up on the list. If we just say, hey, who are the top 10 defensive linemen you've ever worked with? You think Trey Hendrickson's on that list for a guy like Dennis Allen?
I would hope so. Otherwise, I mean
he's been in the league a long time. That's why I said it. Top 10, not top 5, not top 3, not. I mean,
production-wise, it's hard to argue.
Exactly. So this is the time that you dig in and say, hey, maybe we can make something work here.
So let me toss this out there.
Right.
Khalil Mack was 31, same age basically, when the Bears traded him to the Chargers for a second and a sixth. Would you do the same thing for Trey Hendrickson?
How much time was left on that contract when he traded? That's the question, right?
Good question. Let me double check.
Because having just 1 year left and knowing you're going to have to pay him immediately is very different than having kind of a cost-controlled player that you acquire.
A second and a sixth in this draft. You know, I mean,
in this
I
draft,
think the sixth was a future six.
Oh yeah, I'm happy to trade some future picks.
I'm happy to trade a sixth. Also, when you trade future picks, it allows you time to go get more picks between now and then.
My only concern then is it's not only filling out the bottom third of this year's roster with contributing live bodies. It is also understanding that the offensive line moves that you made are short term.
Well, one of them is short term.
Maybe both. We don't know. It was certainly the bigger name in Tooney at his age is a short term move. You need people who are going to be ready to step into those spots. You've got to always, always, always be developing. It is the lifeblood of your team.
No, I agree with that.
It's not free agency. Like, we get all excited about these big names and veteran players with all of their accolades. But the lifeblood of a successful team remains drafting and development. You can't just... I know this is fun. Trust me. I know it's fun.
So you're not predicting for Joe Tooney a Jason Peters type arc, is what you're saying?
It's hard. It's because the only reason you say Jason Peters is so few people have had it.
Yeah. 21 years is a long. That's
come on.
2 decades is a run.
That's a freak.
That's more than a run. That's a marathon. That's studs level running.
Yeah, so I just think we need to temper, and we can't lose sight of the fact that in the NFL, the best organizations are constantly drafting and developing, always restocking, always have people ready to go. As much fun as it is to go shopping,